Hi, what's up guys? This is Jawad and I brought another video. This is actually a second part of VLAN. We did the basic VLAN lab in the last video. So you can look at my screen. This is the last time. This is very basic lab where we divided one switch into two switches. Two VLANs. So the two different departments, they can connect to each other, and we don't want those departments to talk to each other, so that's why we created the VLANs. Now today, let's suppose if we have multiple switches. When I say the multiple switches, let's suppose I have a switch here, and then I have a switch here, and then if we wanted to connect these switches, and we don't want that the certain PCs from this department, either this VLAN, let's suppose if we have two VLANs, this VLAN we don't want to work, don't want to ping with the other VLANs, so we can link these two switches, and this is called actually trunking, and where we can connect both switches using the trunk port. And then after that, once we connected two switches, then we can assign different VLANs over the switches. It doesn't matter, you can create a portion of VLAN on switch 1, and then you can assign some of the ports from the switch 2, and you can make a same VLAN. So this is really good technology for security. And let's suppose you don't want to spend more money on switches, this is also a reason you don't need these things. And then the next thing, there's a theory where I'm gonna say that what is the trunking. The trunking is if we use multiple switches, as I told you, then we need to consider additional concepts about how to forward traffic between switches, and we will assign a trunk link between multiple switches. You can assign trunking in between multiple switches, and then the trunking allow a switch to take extra head, which is called tagging. In that extra head you can add, not you but the switch automatically add the receiver's address, and the receiver reads that address, and then the receivers perform the operation or talk to the switch. And the extra header include VLAN identifiers. Yeah, it is called the ID of receiver VLAN. And then the Cisco supports two types of trunking protocols. The first one is inter-switch link ISL, which is made by Cisco, and the second one is IEEE 802.1Q made by IEEE. So this is a little bit theory, you guys need to memorize it. Some of the points you should consider using those points, and maybe someone asks you in the interview all about these points, and so you can define what is the trunking, what is the basic VLAN, what if we add trunking into the VLAN, then you can tell them how the trunk works. So if you really wanted to see more about it, you can Google it and you will find more stuff about theory. So we will perform a lab today. This is actually a picture from the old lab. The new lab, I already created a lab in the packet tracer, and I will show you how I created this lab. But for now I will leave it, it's the same lab, I will leave it as it is. And in this lab, I just wanted to show you what we are gonna do exactly. So we are going to make two VLANs, and we are going to assign two departments to those VLANs, VLAN 10 and the VLAN 20. So what we are gonna do, we are gonna assign VLAN 10 just to port, not 20, this is wrong. We are going to assign just port 1, which is a port, this port FA01. We will assign VLAN 10. Okay, so VLAN 10 we are going to assign this port, and VLAN 20 we are going to assign 3 ports. Which 3 ports? If you look at the switch, it's a 21, 22, 23. You can read in the description. And then we don't want these switches, these, like let's suppose if the service department, we wanted to keep this HR department separate from the service department. We don't want the service employee, they look into the HR sensitive stuff. So that's why we did it. And we have a two building. Let's suppose this is a building 1, this area, this is a building 1, and this is a building 2. Now the scenario is we have two HR people, one is sitting in this building, the other one is sitting on the other building. We want the both HR, I mean the green portion PC, talk to each other, but that those the other department, the service department on the same building, on different building, they don't see actually the HR department. So we are going to assign a trunk link here between the switches are not too far, and we can run a cable if they are under the 100 meter. And then from there I will show you how to configure and how we will going to perform the lab. Hey guys, let's go to the lab, and in the lab we are going to perform our lab where we are going to define one HR department here. So the diagram is a little bit different because I created this new diagram that was from my old class or from my old lecture. So over here we have a VLAN 10 HR department, and then the VLAN 20 service department. The same thing, we gave one computer here to the HR. So we want the HR talks to HR, and then the service department talks to service department. We don't want that they talk to each other, so the employee they can get into the HR system and they can grab some of the information. We don't want this scenario. So what we are gonna do, we will go to our switch, we will go to the CLI. So over here on the right side, if you can see, I wrote almost all the commands, and let me here. So let's start it from the, let's go back to our switch. We are going to say privileges mode, and then you say config T, and then you are gonna change the name. You are gonna say VLAN. You are going to define two VLANs. You don't need to define, you can define in next command, but I would say you should define both VLANs over here like this, VLAN 10, and then you can name it to HR, and then you can exit out from this VLAN and then create another VLAN called VLAN 20, and then you type in name and it's called service, and then you should exit because you are inside the VLAN. So now you have both VLAN created. The next thing which is very important, you need to go, this is our scenario. This scenario says the VLAN humor will be configured switch on FA01 port. On FA01 port we are going to configure the VLAN 10. So what we are gonna do, we are gonna say here interface FA0/1. It will take us to the interface, and now we are inside the interface. We are gonna say switch port mode access. This is actually a mode. We have a different type of mode, but we are going to define access mode over here, and then we will define our we will assign this mode, switch port mode, to our VLAN, which is going to be switch port access. So we give access to VLAN 10. Okay, so if you don't create the VLAN 10 on the starting, it's going to create over here automatically, and we had done this in our previous lab. And that's it. So we are gonna say exit, and we are out of our port. So we are back to the business, and we will start on the next. I'm gonna read. Okay, VLAN 20 service department will be configured on FA 21, 22 and 23. So we are going to configure on 3 ports. So I'm gonna say interface FA0/21. So we are going to define a range, and for the range we can write down hyphen and then 23. So it will select the whole range from 21 to 23, all 3 ports. Okay, let me see, where did we made a mistake. Okay, so I'm gonna say int FA. So I figured it out, we made a mistake because we were selecting the range and we did not wrote the word range. FA, the other command is the same. So we are gonna say 21 to 23 and we will hit. Now we are in the range. So in this range we are going to assign, we are going to perform the same configuration we did for port number 1, and we are going to say switch port mode, what mode it is, access, and then we are gonna say switch port access VLAN 20. Okay, and then we are gonna say exit, and then we are gonna say exit. So we are back to our business, and over here we can say show VLAN, and so it's gonna show whatever we created. It's gonna show us by default VLAN, then the 10, then the 20, and it's gonna also show us here. So this is our HR department, this is our service department, this is our HR department. So service department has been applied on these ports, and HR department has been applied to these ports. And then from there, I don't want to read everything. Now the second thing is we need to go to the other switch and perform the same configuration. So I will go to the CLI over here, enable config T, and then I'm gonna see VLAN 10 over here, and then I'm going to name it as HR, and then I will say exit out, and then the second VLAN 20, and then I should name as service department. I can do that, and then I can exit out. And then we have performed the, then I'm going to say interface fa0/1 this interface, and we are gonna say switch port mode access, and then we are gonna say switch port access, what we are gonna write down here, access which VLAN 10, and we should exit out and over here, sorry, I'm config t I supposed to be here, and then interface range. We did not define the range last time and we got the error. This time we are gonna say the range, and after saying the range, we are going to say fa0/21 to range 23, and we are in, and we are gonna say switch port mode access, and then we will write it down switch port mode access. This is our mode is going to VLAN 20. We will assign on VLAN 20. We will exit out, and over here we can say show VLAN, and then we can see our VLAN on the top. It says active. So we are back. We should go to the computer. So the both have been configured perfectly. I don't know, I can see there is something is going on this. Maybe we don't have an IP. We do have an IP here. And okay, so I'm going to ping the service department. I'm going to ping, go here, go to command prompt, and I'm going to ping the service department to the service which is 192.1. The ping should go, it should talk to the PC. It's taking long. Let's see. No. Okay, so one thing is missing. Why it's not talking? Okay, it's not gonna talk because we have to define a very important thing. This is just a VLAN setup. We did not define any trunk between those ports, so we are going to define the trunk. So what we are gonna say, we are gonna define, we need to go here on switch 1. This is important step. Okay, look at here, and we are gonna say here interface fa0/24. Oh sorry, I'm not on the same config key, and then I should say interface fa0/24 interface 4, and we are going to define it as switch port mode trunk. This is our trunk we had not defined. Here you go. So that's good, and the same thing we are going to do on the other side. Okay, on the other switch, so I'm going to interface fa0/24 config t, and then config t is already up. Interface fa0/24, and over here I am gonna say switch port mode trunk. We have to make, so this port is going to communicate, which is a 24. Before it was not configured, that's why we had all those issues. So we are gonna run it, and we are gonna say exit and exit. Now we will check the same thing if our HR computer is working with. Here you go, getting the reply. But if the HR employee wanted to get into the service department, which is totally not allowed, and if you press 6, because these are two different VLANs, So the VLANs are not gonna talk to each other, but over here the trunk, we configured a trunk between the switches, so that's why both switches are talking to each other, but the VLANs are not. That was the goal here. I defined the goal. And if you go, we go here on our service department, and then let's see if the service department is working with pin 192. Here you go, it's working with service department. But what if he wanted to talk to the HR on the other building? No, it's not gonna work. It should not work. Okay, so it is not working. I'm going to kill here. So this is actually our trunk. This is very important, and this command here, this is very important command. You need to remember, once you configure your VLANs in the same way we had done this before, then the last step is you to create your trunk port. So there are 3 steps when you are going to create the trunk port. The first, you have to create the VLANs accordingly, and then you have to define the trunk port, assign a port, and then you need to run that command, trunk port command, on both switches, and you will be able to talk to each other. And that was the goal, and we achieved that goal. So stay connected, and I'm going to bring another lab on the VLAN where we are going to connect mobile devices, Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi points. So that's going to be very interesting lab. Please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so you will receive the latest notification on your cell phone. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.